Hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. So we are now in our part 3 of our pre-colonial um in Philippine history. So we'll be proceeding, and I prepare 30 questions with answers and generalizations for all of you guys. And again, this one, I'll be providing you 10 seconds to answer the questions, to think, to exercise your brain. Okay, so again, my goal here is to help you guys exercise, learn, and retain more information, especially when it comes to social studies. So we have for now we have a pre-colonial, and the next one we have hold on. Okay, so in our history, we have, I will be discussing, okay, hold on. So this is we will be focusing on Philippine history first, because I am a social studies major and gusto na ko i-prioritize sa ang kanang social studies na reviewer. So we'll be discussing here, we'll be prioritizing Philippine history. For now, we have pre-colonial, and then after na to mahuman ang mga materials nga gi-prepare na ko, na mga questionnaires na gi-prepare na ko sa inyo for pre-colonial, we'll be proceeding to the Spanish era. Next, American era, Japanese periods, martial law, EDSA, and so on and so forth. Okay, so stay tuned, and please don't forget to like and subscribe, and then yeah, turn on the notification bell button para updated ka sa ako ang mga reviewer, updated ka sa akong mga materials, and all of this will be updated materials. Okay, so my main goal here is to help you pass the lit, and um kung pwede i-top ninyo ang board exam, okay? So mao lang na siya ko ang goal din hiya. And again, don't forget to like and subscribe para updated ka sa mga materials, okay? So daghan kay kog ihatag dariya na channel, daghan kay kog kung ano mga updated na materials para makatabang sa inyo, ha. Okay, so without further ado, let us start in our part 3. So kung wala pa ka nakatanaw sa part 1 and part 2, paki-check lang sa ako ang channel na dito ang descriptions, ang content para sa YouTube channel, tanawa sa playlist na social studies, okay? Okay. Alright, so ayaw kalimutog like and subscribe, palihog. So we are now on part 3, and hold on, mag-prepare lang ko og timer para sa inyo, ha? Then okay, again, you have 10 seconds to think, to answer the questions before na ako i-reveal and before ta mag-proceed sa generalization. Okay, make sure na prepare mo, focus mo, kay para ang mga information mag-retain yun sa inyong brain, and pag mag-take na mo ulit, magamit ninyo, pwede ninyo ma-pull up ang mga information. Okay, let us start. Question number, okay, nata sa number 61. What term refers to rice-based delicacies in pre-colonial diets? Again, what term refers to rice-based delicacies in pre-colonial diets? Letter A, kakanin. Letter B, tapoy. Letter C, tuba. Letter D, calamay. Timer starts now. Okay, so what term refers to rice-based delicacies in pre-colonial diets? That is letter A, kakanin. It is because kakanin mo na siya ang rice-based delicacies. This is various sticky rice cakes sweetened with coconut. Okay? Ang tapoy, dili na siya rice based. This is rice wine from Cordillera. This is not a food. Rice wine siya, wine, okay? And tuba naman, wine pod na siya, made from coconut sap. And this is not a rice-based. Kalamay naman, this is type of kakanin, but not the general category, okay? So, ang rice-based yun siya is kakanin. Ang kalamay, um, dili na siya kuan na kanang general sa delicacies before sa pre-colonial era. Okay, let us proceed to question number 62. Which indigenous fiber was prized for weaving cloth and rope? Again, which indigenous fiber was prized for weaving cloth and rope? Letter A, cotton. Letter B, abaca. Letter C, jute. Letter D, hemp. Timer starts now. Okay. By the way guys, sa mga wala pa naka-like, wala pa naka-subscribe, palihog ko subscribe guys kay para ma-distribute pa ni ato ang mga questionnaire sa mga nagkinahanglan sa mga materials, okay? Para makatabang pud ta sa ilaha. Okay, going back, which indigenous fiber was prized for weaving cloth and rope? Letter A, cotton. Letter B, abaca. Letter C, jute. Letter D, hemp. The correct answer will be atong keyword dinhi is the indigenous fiber nga ginahabuhat og cloth and rope. And the answer that would be letter B, abaca. Okay? Before sa pre-colonial, ang ginagamit nila na pangkuan sa sinina, pang-wave, pang-tahi is, abaka, okay? And then ginabuhat pod na rope ang abaka. It's because abaka mango, this is a strong banana relative fiber native to the island. So strong yun na siyang abaka. So man ang ginagamit nila pang tahi. And then ginabuhat nila mga lubid. Ang cotton naman on the other hand, this is cultivated later under na sa Spanish influence. And then ang jute, this is South Asian product, seldom used here. So sa South Asia lang ni siya nga product. And then ang hemp naman, this is not cultivated in pre-colonial Philippines. So we'll be discussing the pre-colonial era, and then before ang ginagamit nila pang tahi, pang kuan sa lubid, ginahimo na lubid is the abaka. Next, we have number 63. What portable loom tied to the weaver's body was common in weaving? Unsa daw ang portable loom tied to the weaver's body and common siya in weaving? Letter A, floor loom. Letter B, backstrap. A backstrap loom. Letter C, spinning wheel. Letter D, frame loom. Timer starts now. The correct answer will be letter. What portable loom tied to a weaver's body was common in weaving? The correct answer will be letter B, backstrap loom. Okay? Mao na siya ang portable loom nga ginahikot sa lawas sa sa taga wave kanang weavers, and then ginagamit nila for weaving. Backstrap loom, this is portable, okay? Portable and adjustable, and then this is perfect for outdoor work. And then when we talks about floor loom, this is stationary and this is already introduced later na sa pre-colonial. Ang spinning wheel, this is European innovation. Frame loom, this is used in other regions centuries later. But before sa pre-colonial, that's called a backstrap loom. Muna siyang portable, adjustable. Okay? Na pwede siya magamit pang outdoor. Let us proceed to question number 64. What name was given to ancestral spirits worshipped in pre-colonial times? What name was given to ancestral spirits worshipped in pre-colonial times? Letter A, Datu. Letter B, Anito. Letter C, Umaluhokan. Letter D, Mandirigma. Timer starts now. By the way guys, pwede ninyong i-comment inyong answers din ha, para ma-exercise inyong brain, inyong na-studyhan, para mas mag-sink in sa inyo ha. Alright, so what name was given to ancestral spirits worship in pre-colonial times? That is, ang ancestral spirits nga gina-worship during sa pre-colonial times, that is Letter B, that is Anito. It is because ang way of belief nila before, that's called animism, which is nagasamba sila og mga hayop, mga Daghan sila kanang Ginoo god. So ang kuan sa ginagbuhat sa ancestral spirits na gina-worship sa pre-colonial times, that is Anito. It is because Anito, that is a guardians of nature, ancestor central to animist worship. Okay? And Dato naman, this is a political leader. This is not spirit. And umaluhokan, this is a town crier or tagabalita or messenger sa mga batas sa mga dato, sa mga hatol sa mga dato. So, dili siya mong answer because umaluhokan, this is town crier, not spiritual entity. Mandirigma naman, this is warrior. So, this is not the spirit. So, ang ginako nila before is Anito, that is the ancestral spirits nga gina-worship nila, ang Anito. Okay, let us proceed to number 65. Small teardrop-shaped gold pieces is used in barter recalled. Again, small teardrop shaped gold pieces used in barter recalled. Letter A, piloncitos. Letter B, barter rings. Letter C, rupia. Letter D, taka. Timer starts now. Okay, so the small teardrop-shaped gold pieces used in barter were called that is letter A, piloncitos. Piloncitos mo ni siya ang indigenous gold currency priced by traders. So mo ni siya ang teardrop-shaped gold nga ginagamit nila para sa barter. That is piloncitos. And barter rings naman, this is iron or copper units of exchange, pero dili siya gold. Ang rupia, this is modern Indonesian currency. Ang taka, on the other hand, this is Bangladesh currency. Okay? So before, ang ginagamit sa mga indigenous na gold currency, that is teardrop size shape, that is pilon citos. Okay, let us proceed to question number 66. Which wind instrument was fashioned from bamboo and played by pre-colonial Filipinos? Again, which wind instrument was fashioned from bamboo and played by pre-colonial Filipinos? Letter A, gandingan. Letter B, kulintang. Letter C, kalaling. Letter D, kudlong. Timer starts now. Guys, i-comment down ninyo below ang inyong mga answers para ma-exercise ang inyong mga gistudihan o inyong brain. Okay, which wind instrument was fashioned from bamboo and played by pre-colonial Filipinos? That is letter C, kalaling. Okay, mo na siya ang wind instrument, okay, na fashioned from bamboo. And then gina-play nila during sa pre-colonial Filipinos. And ang kalaling, this is a bamboo nose flute, okay, symbol of courtship songs. Gandinga, this is a set of tuned gongs for ensemble music. Kulintang, this is gong raw, also metal. And kudlong, this is corded lute, and this is a string instrument. However, the kalaling, so mao ni siya ang bamboo, made from bamboo, okay? Na ginagamit nila for, this is the instrument, wind instrument, nga made from bamboo, okay, during pre-colonial Filipinos. So let us proceed to question number 67. What was the main beverage fermented from coconut sap? Again, kung dili ka maka-answer ani, di gyud ka Pinoy. What was the main beverage fermented from coconut sap? Letter A, tapoy. Letter B, tuba. Letter C, sake. Letter D, mint. Timer starts now. Okay. What was the main beverage fermented from coconut sap? The correct answer will be tuba. Siya, di ka answer na. Uy, given na kayo. Okay, because ang tuba came from widely produced in palm wine, social lubricant, and villages. Because way back before daghan og kalubin-an god. So mo na ang tawag sa coconut fermented sa tuba. Tapoy naman, this is a rice wine, and again this is from Cordelia Russ. Ang sake, this is Japanese rice wine. Ang mead, this is European honey wine. So made from coconut sa fermented coconut sap, that is tuba. Okay, number 68. What tool was primarily used for dehusking rice grains? What tool was primarily used for dehusking rice grain? Letter A, scythe. Letter B, sickle. Letter C, mortar and pestle. Letter D, watermill. Timer starts now. Okay. The correct answer, that would be letter. So answer ninyo, guys. And that is correct. Letter C, mortar and pestle. A mortar and pestle, this is a portable dehusking implement. Okay? Muna siya ang kanang lusong o kanang lusong o kanang panglubok ana god mo na siya ang ginagamit nila nga pangkuan sa rice kasi tawag kana dili pud na siya galingan kanang mano-mano god di mano nga kanang maglubok portable dehusking implements mo na mortar katong kuan and then katong ilubok-lubok. And scythe naman, this is cutting stalks, not dehusking. So ang scythe is kanang pangkuan siya pangkuan sa stalk sa rice, pangputol. Ang sickle naman, this is harvesting tool. So again, the mortar mo na siya, mortar and pestle mo na ang ginagamit nila pang dehusking sa rice. Ang watermill naman, this is mechanized pero gina-introduce na siya later na. Okay, dili sa pre-colonial. Next, we have question number 69. Which stone carving serve as a ritual pedestal or offering table? Which stone carvings serve as a ritual pedestal or offering table? Letter A, dolmen. Letter B, altar stone. Letter C, bye-bye. Letter D, talay. Timer starts now. Okay. So which stone carvings serve as a ritual pedestal or offering table? That is called letter D, talay. Okay. Talay, this is stone platform for rituals and offerings. Okay. Ang dolmen naman, this is a European megalithic tomb maker. Okay. European megalithic tomb marker. Okay. Ang altar stone, this is generic term pero dili siya local. Ang baybay naman, this is term for coast or script, not a carving. Okay, the correct answer will be talay, stone platform for rituals and offerings. Again, talay, this is stone platform for rituals and offering. Okay, so let us proceed to number 70. What cylindrical wooden structure stored rice grains in villages? What cylindrical wooden structure stored rice grain in villages? Letter A, lusong. Letter B, bangaan. Letter C, silo. Letter D, granary. Timer starts now. Okay. So, the correct answer will be what cylindrical wooden structure stored rice grains in villages? That is letter B, bangaan. Bangaan, this is elevated rice granary to protect against pests and moisture. Okay, bangaan, elevated rice granary, a granary to protect against pests and moisture. So lusong naman, this is a mortar for pounding rice. Okay, mo na siya ang lubukanan. This is not a storage. And then silo naman, this is already modern farm structure. So wala siya na sa pre-colonial era. Ang granary naman, this is general term for bangaan and is the indigenous form. A granary, general term na siya sa bangaan. Okay? Ang most specific jud is answer is bangaan because this is elevated rice granary to protect against pest and moisture. Okay? So ang indigenous term ani is bangaan. Ang general term is granary. Okay, let us proceed to number 71. What materials was most commonly used for roofing in pre-colonial nipa huts? Unsa daw nga material most commonly used for pang-atop roofing in pre-colonial nipa huts? Letter A, cogon grass. Letter B, nipa leaves. Letter C, anahaw leaves. And letter D, coconut fronds. Timer starts now. Alrighty. So, what material was most commonly used for roofing in pre-colonial nipa huts? That is letter B. Nipa leaves. It is because ang nipa daghana sila sa una gud daghana kumbaga sagana sa ilahang places ang nipa mo na ang ginagamit nila para sa ilang atop ang nipa leaves. And ang nipa leaves, this is durable kasi from the water and water resistant and are ideal for tropical rains. Okay? And nakaabot pa gani ko before nga nakaabot pa gyud ko ani nga nipa ang atop sa amang balay. And then cogon grass, this is used for temporary shelters, less waterproof. And nakaabot pug aning cogon ang ginaatop ni Papa before. Dali ra siya malata, dali ra siya, and then ay mga tulo-tulo god, something ana, so less waterproof. And then anahaw leaves naman on the other hand, this is used decoratively and not primary roofing ang anahaw. So ang ginagamit yun is nipa. It is because this is durable and water resistant. And also bugnaw. Kabantay ka sa mga mga dagat ron, mga resort, something like that, na nagagamit sila og kanang nipa nga leaves. It is because bugnaw siya. And then durable pud siya, okay? So, ang coconut fronds naman, this is supplementary touching material. Supplementary lang siya if supplementary lang siya if walay nipa. Pero ang most good na ginagamit before sa pre-colonial is the nipa leaves. Okay, let us proceed to question number 72. Which traditional Mancala game did pre-colonial Filipinos play? Which traditional Mancala game did pre-colonial Filipinos play? Letter A, Pico. Letter B, Sungka. Letter C, Tumbang Priso. Letter D, Luksong Tinik. Timer starts now. Okay. So, which traditional Mancala game did pre-colonial Filipinos play? That is letter B, sungka. Muna siya ang traditional Mancala game. Okay, ang sungka. Sungka, this is duha ka row, shell and hole, and then a board game for strategic counting. Okay, ang Pico naman, this is um sidewalk chalk game, or among ginagamit before is uling. And then this is already in post-colonial evolution. Wala siya sa pre-colonial. Tumbang Preso naman, this is Tagalog's children's game of knocking down the cans. Katong labayon ang kanang latagod, tumbalata, something nga na. And ang Luksong Tinik, this is jumping game, and this is not a board game. Okay, this is no board involved. So ang ginagamit yun, ginadula yun before sa pre-colonial is the sungka. So let us proceed to question number 73. The Laguna Copper Plate inscription, or LCI, dates back to around which year? So ang Laguna Copper Plate inscription daw dates back to around which year? Okay. Letter A, 500 CE or Common Era. Letter B, 900 Common Era. Letter C, 12,000 Common Era. Letter D, 15,000, 1500. hold on. Okay, letter A, 500 Common Era or CE. Letter D, 900 Common Era or CE. Letter C, 1200 Common Era. Letter D, 1500 Common Era. Timer starts now. Okay. So the Laguna Copper Plate Inscription or LCI dates back to around which year? The correct answer will be letter B. It was during 900 Common Era. Okay, 900 Common Era. This is confirms literate societies using Baybayin-like scripts. Okay, muna siya ang Laguna Copper Plate inscriptions, and that is 900 Common Era. Again, that's as dito ang na-confirm ang literate societies nga ginagamit ang baybayin nga mo na siya ang ginakuan para sa ilahang scriptions. Okay? 500 Common Era, this is too early for fully developed script in the archipelago. So, wala pa kaayo na kuan ang baybayin na inscription nila. 1200 naman, this is later period with more external influences. So, nana sila yung mga nakuan ng mga influences. So, dili na siya mo ang tamang answer. And then 1500 Common Era naman, this is right before Spanish contact. So, not the LCI or the Laguna copper plate inscription. So the correct answer will be 900 Common Era. Number 74, pre-colonial Filipino languages belong to which language family? Again, pre-colonial colonial Filipino languages belong to which language family? Letter A, Austronesian. Letter B, Sino-Tibetan. Letter C, Indo-European. Letter D, Dravidian. Timer starts now. Guys, sa wala pa naka-like og subscribe, palihog ko og like and subscribe para update mo sa mga next nako na mga materials. Okay, going back, pre-colonial Filipino languages belong to which language family? The correct answer will be letter A, Austronesian. It is because Austronesian, they're ang pre-colonial Filipino. It's because it covers the Philippines, Philippine, Indonesian, Malagasy, and Pacific tongues. So, ang Filipino languages na belong siya sa Austronesian. And Sino-Tibetan naman, this is East Asian family and unrelated to Philippine languages. Ang Indo-European, this is European and South Asian and wala ginagamit sa Philippines. Ang Dravidian naman, this is a South Indian family, no Philippine connection. So ang Filipino languages during pre-colonial, that is under Austronesian. Let us proceed to question number 75. Which marital Question number 75. Which martial art was practiced by pre-colonial Filipinos? Which martial art was practiced by pre-colonial Filipinos? Letter A, Jujutsu masiguro ni? Jujutsu. Letter B, Taekwondo. Letter C, Arnis. Letter D, Karate. Again, letter A, Jujutsu. Letter B, Taekwondo. Letter C, Arnis. Letter D, Karate. Timer starts now. Okay. So, which martial art was practiced by pre-colonial Filipinos? The correct answer will be, that is, Arnes. Because Jujutsu, this is a Japanese martial art and also known as Jiu-Jitsu, okay? Before, Jujutsu ang tawag, but later na siya into Jujutsu, later na himo siyang Jiu-Jitsu. Similar na sila. However, the Filipino martial arts na gina-practice sa mga colonial Filipinos, that is Arnes. Okay? Ang Jujutsu naman, okay, again, Arnes mo na siya ang native stick and blade fighting system. Ang Jujutsu, this is Japanese grappling art introduced na later. Taekwondo naman, this is in Korean discipline, not indigenous. Okay? Ang Jujutsu, that is from Japanese. Ang Taekwondo, that is in mga Korean ang nagaano ani. And then ang arnis is mo ni siya ang Filipino martial arts, okay? Ang arnis. Ang karate naman, this is Okinawan import, arrived in post-colonial. And then ang karate, that is in so the karate is this is a martial art that originated in Ryukyu Kingdom, Japan. So dili siya from Philippines. So the correct answer will be Arnes. This is the Filipino will gonna use native stick and blade fighting system. Karate and Jujutsu is from Japan, and then Taekwondo is from Korea. Okay, so let us proceed to question number 76. Which term bayanihan in pre-colonial communities referred? Which term bayanihan in pre-colonial communities referred? Letter A, blood compact ceremony. Letter B, communal unity and cooperation. Letter C, harvest festival. Letter D, tribal warfare. Letter D, tribal warfare alliance. Timer starts now. Ang term bayanihan daw in pre-colonial communities referred to okay, that is referred to communal unity and cooperation. That is letter B. It's because ang bayanihan, this is nagkaisa gud ang kanang mga Filipino para tabangan ang kapwa Filipino nila. So that is bayanihan. This is neighbors helping one household to move its bahay kubo. And nakaabot pa ko ani before sa amo ang bukid na kanang ang isa ko nagtinabangay ibalhin ang balay dito sa other place. Okay, dayungan god man na siya. And then also bayanihan ginagamit na siya sa barangay today para kanang maghinlo god sa barangay, maghagbas, magkanal, something ana. And blood compact, this is called sandugo. This is a formal alliance ritual. So dili siya bayanihan. And then harvest festival naman, this is specific celebrations but not general in ethos. So harvest festival ginabuhat ni nila pag na sila mga ani. Warfare alliance, this is a military pact, not everyday cooperation. Okay, so let us proceed to question number 77. Which region supplied most of the gold used by pre-colonial Filipinos? Asa daw ang region naga-supply sa mas daghan nga gold nga ginagamit sa pre-colonial Filipinos? Letter A, Pampanga. Letter B, Butuan. Letter C, Cebu. Letter D, Ilocos. Timer starts now. Guys, subscribe ko ninyo please para ano makaano sa daghan. Okay. So, the correct answer that would be asa daw ang pinakamasdaghan og supply of gold sa pre-colonial Filipinos? That is letter B, Butuan, the city of gold. Okay. So, Butuan dito ang mas pinakadaghan nga supply sa gold. Okay? Because ang Butuan, mo na siya ang archaeological find show extensive gold work. Pampanga, this is agrarian plain but less known for gold deposits. Ang Cebu naman, this is trade hub but not gold was mainly imported here. So, dinaalang ang mga baligyanan, kumbaga ang center sa mga baligyan, trade hub. And then Ilocos naman, this is known for salt and tobacco. Tabako, good oy, not gold. So, before sa pre-colonial era, ang Butuan ang pinakadaghan og gold supply. 78. Which Chinese dynasty was principal trading partner of pre-colonial Philippines? Asa daw sa Chinese dynasty was the principal trading partner of pre-colonial Philippines. Letter A, Ming Dynasty. Letter B, Qing Dynasty. C, Song Dynasty. And D, Yuan Dynasty. Timer starts now. Ay, hold on. Okay, by the way guys, today nag-prepare ko sa inyong materials, nagkuhan ko sa materials alas 4 sa kaadlawon. So number 78, which Chinese dynasty was the principal trading partner of pre-colonial Philippines? The correct answer will be trading partner. That is Song Dynasty. Okay, Song Dynasty dari ang 10th to 13th century, which is peak for maritime exchange with the archipelago. So muna siya ang trading partner of pre-colonial history nga Chinese dynasty, ang Song Dynasty. Pag trading, naana siya sa Song Dynasty. Trading, dira ana ka na ang trading system sa pre-colonial. Okay? And then ang Ming Dynasty, later era, still traded but after initial contacts na. Ang Qing Dynasty, this is the last imperial dynasty. Trade continued but centuries later na. Ang Yuan Dynasty naman, this is a Mongol regime. Less direct Philippine trade. So, the correct answer will be Song Dynasty for trading partner of pre-colonial Philippines. Trading partner, that is Song Dynasty. 79. The Igorot people of Cordilleras are best known for building. The Igorot people of Cordilleras are best known for building of letter A, stone castillo, letter B, rice terraces, letter C, wooden palaces, letter D, cliff fortresses. Timer starts now. Okay, all right. So, um, hold on. Correct answer will be letter. The Igorot people of Cordilleras are best known building of letter B, the rice terraces. Okay, the Igorot people again of Cordilleras, best known for building of rice terraces. This is during pre-colonial ha, and then ang rice terraces kasi this is ingenious irrigation carved into mountain sides. Okay, tanan naman siguro ta naka familiar sa rice terraces. Okay, na siya sa ang nagakuan na is mga Igorot na from Cordilleras. Ang Stone Castillo, this is Spanish colonial style, and this is not Igorot, dili Igorot ang nag-build ani. Ang wooden palaces, this is royal courts, came later under sultanates. Ang cliff fortresses, this is some hill forts exist, but terraces define Igorot culture. Okay, so the correct answer will be rice terraces. Kay mo na siya ang best known for Igorot sa Cordillera. Okay, number 80, jar burial is a scene in the Manungol jar. Was primary take two. Jar burial number 80. Jar burial as seen in the Manungol jar was primarily practiced in which region? Jar burial, as seen in the Manungol jar, was primarily practiced in which region? Letter A, Luzon. B, Palawan. C, Mindanao. Letter D, Visayas. Timer starts now. Okay. Jar burial, as seen in the Manungol jar, was primarily practiced in which region? And that is in the region Palawan, letter B. So, ang manunggol jar or ang jar burial, gina-practice na siya sa Palawan. So, by the way, manunggol jar is katong mga patay nga lawas isulod sa jar. Okay? So, that is practiced in Palawan. Palawan, this is Palawan, this is Tabon Cave site where Manunggol jar was found. Okay. Sa Luzon naman, has some cave burials, fewer jar interments. So, wala kaayo siya ginakuan sa Luzon. In Mindanao naman, fewer jar discovers, more secondary burial. So gamay lang siya, more in the Palawan because in Palawan dito ang Tabon cave site for Manonggol jar was found. In Visayas naman, this is burial jars existed but Palawans as are most iconic. Okay, let us proceed to question number 81. Early Baybayin writing was commonly inscribed on what medium? Early Baybayin writing was commonly inscribed in what medium? Letter A, stone tablets. Letter B, bamboo strips. Letter C, palm leaves. Letter D, a metal plate. Timer starts now. Okay. Early Baybayin writing was commonly inscribed in what medium? That is in letter C. Gina-inscribe na nila sa palm leaves. Okay? Ang baybayin, gina-inscribes in what medium? In the palm leaves. Okay? Sa dahon sa palm. And, ang palm leaves kasi, this is flexible, abundant, and inscribable with stylus. So, dito nila ginasulat ang ilang inscription. Ang stone tablets, this is not the answer because rare siya. And then aside from that, bugat and unwieldy. Unwieldy. Okay? Ang bamboo strips, this is used in some cultures. However, this is but prone to dali siya malata, decay. And then palm leaves, this is the correct answer. It is because this is flexible and also abundant and inscribable with stylus. Ang metal plates, this is precious and scarce. Okay? So, mo na ang ginagamit nila kay abunda man og kanang palm. So, ang palm leaves nila ginabutang ilang inscription. Now let us proceed to number 82. What was the name of the Visayan warship noted for its speed and agility? Again, what is the name of the Visayan warship noted for its speed and agility? That is letter A, Barangay, B, Parao, C, Caracoa, letter D, Vinta. Timer starts now. Okay. What is the name of the Visayan warship noted for its speed and agility? That is correct answer will be letter C, Caracoa. It's because Caracoa, this is a large warship used in tribal conflicts. Okay? Dako siya nga kanang barko nga ginagamit for war. And then paspas siya. And then kanang sturdy. And then ang balangay naman, this is cargo vessel for trade and migration. So balangay is for cargo and trade migration. Ang paraw naman, this is outrigger sailboat, fast but smaller. Okay? Outrigger, what is, daan na siya duha ka, kumbaga, murag pakpak gud sa bangka. Something na good. And then paspas siya, and then kamay. Ang Caracoa mo na siya ang ginagamit is because dako siya and then ligon. And then, amo na ginagamit para sa pagkuan og war sa mga tribal conflicts. Ang Vinta naman, this is Mindanao sailboat, known for colorful sails. So correct answer will be Caracoa. Okay, let us proceed to question number 83. The Sandugo Blood Compact signified what between two leaders? The Sandogo Blood Compact signified what between two leaders? Letter A, marriage alliance. B, military defeat. Letter C, trade embargo. Letter D, trust and treaty of friendship. Timer starts now. Ay, katugong pag ko. Well, para ni sa inyo tanan akong buhat. So the Sandugo Blood Compact signified what between two leaders, and that is trust and treaty of friendship. Letter D. It's because ang sandugo ginakuan na siya para sa treaty of friendship, and this is sacred bond sealed of mingled blood ang sandugo. Ang marriage naman, this is separate dowry customs existed para ni sa kanang mga dowry. Ang defeat naman, this is ritual was consensual alliance, not conquest. Embargo naman, this is opposite of cooperations. So the okay. Number 84, the Kalatagan pot inscription is written in which script? The Kalatagan pot inscription is written in which script? Kalatagan pot, okay? Letter A, Sanskrit. Letter B, Arabic. Letter C, Baybayin. Letter D, Roman letters. Timer starts now. Okay. Guys, kung wala pa man nakasubscribe, subscribe. And the Kalatagan pot inscription is written in which script? Letter A, Sanskrit. B, Arabic. Letter C, Baybayin, Roman letters. Guys, remind you again, we are talking about the pre-colonial era of the Philippine history. So the Kalatagan pot inscription written in letter B, Baybayin. Okay, ang Kalatagan pot inscription is ginasulat siya into Baybayin. So, Baybayin, mauna siya ang indigenous pre-colonial syllabary. Okay? Ang Sanskrit, this is influenced Southeast Asia but not this artifact. Arabic naman, this is introduced later with Islam. Ang Roman letters, this came with the Spaniards na. So, ang Kalatagan pot inscription is ang gigamitan is Baybayin. Number 85, what name did pre-colonial Filipinos use for smoked fish? Again, what name did pre-colonial Filipinos use for smoked fish? Letter A, daing. C, tuyo. Letter C, tinapa. Letter B, bagoong. Timer starts now. Ay, katugod pa ako kay alas 5 pa sa down. Oh? Laban lang yun mo ha. Laban lang mo sa sa review. Kailangan din ninyo, kailangan ninyo i-practice, i-exercise para mas mag-sink in sa inyo ha. Ma-deposit siya sa inyong long-term memory. Okay, what name did pre-colonial Filipino use for smoked fish? The correct answer will be letter C, tinapa. Muna siya ang sa pre-colonial Filipinos. And, hold on. Kada lang yun, guys. Nasangit ang wire sa akong kuan. Okay, so tinapa mo na siya ang term na ginagamit sa colonial Filipinos para sa smoked fish. Okay, so ginapasuhan nila ang isda or sugba para ma-preserve ang isda para magtaas ang ilahang lifespan or hindi siya dali madaot. Daing naman, this is salt dried fish, not smoked. Ang tuyo, this is sun-dried variant, less smoky flavor. Bagoong, this is fermented shrimp, fermented fish or shrimp. So, ang ginagamit nila before pag-preserve is smoked. Ginapasuhan, tawag mo, ang tinapa. Number 86, which beverage was fermented from coconut sap in pre-colonial times? Again, which beverage was fermented from coconut sap in pre-colonial times? Letter A, tapoy. B, tuba. Letter C, sake. Letter D, mead. Timer starts now. Siya, di ka ka-answer, ani, Diyos. Kanang ko na kayo ni siya ba? Bonus questions. Okay, so which beverage was fermented from coconut sap in pre-colonial times? That is no other than tuba. Letter B. Okay, so ang tuba gikan siya sa coconut palm wine consumed in lowland communities. Ang tapoy, this is from Cordilleras. This is rice wine. Di siya from coconut sap. Ang sake, this is a rice wine. Ang mead naman, this is fermented honey, not native. So, ang fermented coconut sap is the tuba. Number 87. Which small bamboo instrument was used for courtship songs? Which small bamboo instrument was used for courtship songs? Letter A, gabang. Letter B, kalaling. Letter C, kudlong. Letter D, kulintang. Timer starts now. Okay, the small bamboo instrument was used for courtship songs. That is letter B. Kalaleng. Kalaleng, mao ni siya ang ginagamit pang courtship nga gikan sa bamboo. This is nose flute intimate for solo melodies. Ang gabang, this is bamboo xylophone in cymbal instrument. Pero ang ginagawa ng nato is courtship. So, mo ang answer is kalaling. Ang kudlong, this is corded lute, pero dili siya bamboo. Kulintang, this is row of metal gongs and cymbal for music. So, ang ginagamit na ka ng instrument para sa courtship song is kalaling. Made from bamboo. Okay, let's proceed to number 88. What is the name of the traditional Filipino martial arts stick? Again, what is the name of the traditional Filipino martial arts stick? Letter A, Chris. Letter B, Dooley. Letter C, Arnis stick. Letter D, Kampilan. Timer starts now. Okay. What is the name of the traditional Filipino martial arts stick? That is Arnis stick. Letter C. Arnis stick, mo ni siya ang rattan baton used in training and combat. Ang Chris naman, this is wavy sword, edge weapon. So, dili siya for martial arts. And Duli, this is a wooden club and less formalized. Kampilan, this is a long sword of indigenous warrior. So, number 89, which fiber was prized for rope making and weaving cloth? Again, which fiber was prized for rope making and weaving cloth? Letter A, jute. Letter B, hemp. Letter C, abaca. Letter D, cotton. Timer starts now. Guys, pag-live ko, subscribe, ayaw kalimot para daghan pa itong matabangan pod. Okay, which fiber was prized for rope making and weaving cloth? That is letter C, abaca. Ang ginagamit pang tahi o ginabuhat nga lubid. Okay, because ang abaca man siya ang strong banana leaf fiber. Indigenous. Basta ka ng di man good kay leaf ang ginagamit, 'di ba? Ang kanamang iyang lawas. Well, basta ka ng baka ang ginagamit sa pang ano sa lubid. Ano god. And then ang jute, this is South Asians can't use in the archipelago, so dili siya answer. Hemp naman, this is not cultivated locally. And cotton, this is introduced and expanded under the colonial rule. So we are talking about pre-colonial. So ang ginagamit nila pang weave sa cloth is the abaca. Next, we have number 90. Which tuber was a staple root crop for early Filipinos? Which tuber was a staple root crop for early Filipinos? Letter A, kamote. B, gabi. Letter C, patatas. Letter D, ube. Ay, social kayong patatas. Timer starts now. Okay. So which tuber was staple root crop for early Filipinos? That is letter B, gabi. Kaya nga no, mo ni siya dali mo tubo, dali ating manon dali itanom ang gabi. Ano ang dali nga staple crop for early Filipinos. It's because ang gabi, this is taro widely cultivated and eaten. Lami kayo ng gabi. Ang kamuti naman, sweet potato, late na siya na-introduce. Okay? And then patatas, this is Irish potato and this is during in post-colonial period. Ang ube naman, this is cassava introduced thereafter. Ang gabi, ang pinaka masagana sila before. And then number 91. Okay, actually I have bonus 10 items kay para mahimo siyang 100 manggod. So ang part 1 30 items, ang part 2 30 items, ang part 3 gihimo na ko na 40 items para sa inyo ha. Okay, so 91, which pre-colonial polity was an Islamic sultanate before Spanish arrival? Which pre-colonial polity was an Islamic sultanate before Spanish arrival? Letter A, Manila. Letter B, Tondo. Letter C, Sulu. Letter D, Butuan. Timer starts now. Okay, which pre-colonial polity was in Islamic Sultanate before Spanish arrival? That is letter C. In Sulu mo na siya ang nakuan during sa pre-colonial na lugar sa Spanish during the before Spanish arrival. Okay, again, pre-colonial polity was an Islamic Sultanate. Okay, Islamic Sultanate. So the correct answer is in Hulu Sulu. It's because in Holo Solo, during that time, this is established already by Muslim rulers and trade links. Manila, this is Hindu-Buddhist influence, not yet Muslim. Okay? Ang Tondo naman, this is animist and Hindu-Buddhist elements. While Butuan, early Buddhist contacts, not Islam. Okay, number 92. Which colorful outrigger boat is native to Mindanao? Which colorful outrigger boat is native to Mindanao? Letter A, Balangay. B, Vinta. Letter C, Caraco. Letter D, Parao. Timer starts now. Hold on, naglag niya siya. Please guys, like and subscribe and then comment your answer para sa exercise para sa inyong brain. Exercise para sa inyong learning. And then pag mag-subscribe mo, ma-distribute sa daghan na tao, daghan na mga reviewee ang atong mga materials. Okay? Okay, so which colorful outrigger boat is native to Mindanao? That is letter B, Venta. Okay, na-discuss na natin ni ganina. Okay, ang colorful na outrigger boat native sa Mindanao is Vinta. It's because Vinta, this is known for its vivid sails and Morocco craftsmanship. Okay, and then Balangay, this is a plank vessel for migration. Ang cargo naman, this is large warship, not chiefly decorative. Ang Parao, this is a Visayan sailboat with white sails. So, ang colorful, mo na siya, ang Vinta. Let's proceed to number 93. The Maranao Ochre design appears in what art form? The Maranao Ochre, tama ba na ako pag-pronounce? Ochre o Ochre? Correct me if I'm wrong. Design appears in what art form? Letter A, pottery. Letter B, architectural wood carving. Letter B, tattooing. Letter D, basket weaving. Timer starts now. Okay. So, ang Maranao Ochre daw, design appears in what art form? And that is in letter B, architectural wood carving. Okay. So, this is Ochre ornamentation and Torogan houses, which is wood carving ang Ochre. Pottery naman, this is mostly plain surfaces, less carving. Ang tattooing naman, this is distinct motifs, not called ochre. Basket weaving naman, this is geometric patterns and has a different style. So, ang Maranao ochre, nag-design siya into architectural wood carving. Number 94, which epic from Panay tells of ancient Visayan heroes? Which epic from Panay tells of ancient Visayan heroes? Letter A, Ibong Adarna. Letter B, Hinilaod. Letter C, Biag ni Lamang. Letter D, Derangin. Timer starts now. Okay, correct answer will be the which epic from Panay tells of ancient Visayan heroes. That is letter B, Hinilaod. Okay, because the Hinilaod, this is a suludnon epic of Labao Dungon's exploits. Ang Ibong Adarna, this is a Tagalog folktale, and it was happened during post-colonial. Ang Biag ni Lamang, this is Ilocano hero epic. Ang Derangin, this is Maranao epic. Again, Ang Maranao epic mo na siya, gikan na siya from the Rangin. Biag nilam ang amo ni siya ang Ilocano hero epic. So the correct answer will be Hinilawd or Suludon epic of Labaw Dongon's exploit. Number 95. What wrap around cloth did Visayan women wear? What wrap-around cloth did Visayan women wear? Letter A, barot saya. Letter D, tapis. Letter C, malong. Letter D, kimona. Timer starts now. Okay. Unsa daw ang gina-wrap around sa nga sinina sa mga Visayan women? That is letter B, tapis. Okay, ang kanang gina-wrap nila sa ilahang sa sinina sa mga babae before. So, tapis, mauna siya ang simple rectangular cloth tied around waist. Ginatapis. Ang barot saya, this is a Spanish colonial era blouse, skirt, and symbol. Ang tapis mo na siya correct answer. Ang simple rectangular cloth tied around the waist. Malong naman, this is already in Maranao tubular garment. Ang kimono later development na siya blending East Asian blouse style. Okay, so correct answer ang ginasuot ng mga kung sa mga babae before sa pre-colonia, ang gina-wrap around nila is the tapis. Okay, number 96. What length unit based on an outstretched arm span was used in pre-colonial trade? What length unit based on an outstretched arm span was used in pre-colonial trade? Letter A, dipa. B, yarda. Letter C, talampakan. Letter D, metro. Timer starts now. Okay. So what length unit based on an outstretched arm span was used in pre-colonial trade? The correct answer will be letter A, dipa. Okay? Mana siya ang tawag, dipa, in pre-colonial trade na ginagamit. Dipa, this is arm span measures for cloth and rope. Yarda naman, this is English yard. This is already in colonial import. Talampakan, this is foot length, less standardized siya. Metro naman, this is metric system and this is already used in modern. So the correct answer will be DEPA because this is used in arm span measure for cloth and rope. Number 97. Which pre-colonial Filipino houses were typically built on? Pre-colonial Filipino houses were typically built on letter A, stone foundations, B, sand beaches, social. Letter C, wooden stilts, letter D, concrete pillars. Timer starts now. Okay, the correct answer will be letter. The pre-colonial Filipinos houses were typically built on asa sa letter C, wooden stilts. Okay? Ang pre-colonial Filipino houses were typically built on the wooden stilts. And wooden stilts, this is protected against floods, pests, and improved ventilation. It's because naman sila sa kahoy nagakuan. Kahoy man nilang ginagamit. Silang kuan. Dili siya sa stone foundations kay heavy and scarce. And then dili po siya sa sand beaches because unstable for permanent structure. And then concrete pillars naman, this is already in modern construction. So before, ang mga balay is nagakuan siya sa wooden stilts. Number 98. Which shield was commonly used for pre-colonial warriors? Which shield was commonly used for pre-colonial warriors? Letter A, kalasag. Letter B, carapace. Letter C, buckler. Letter D, scutum. Timer starts now. Okay. Which shield was commonly used for pre-colonial warriors? The correct answer will be letter A, kalasag. Okay. It's because kalasag, this is carved wood or animal hide shield in Visayan warfare. Muna ilang ginahimo nga shield. Ang karapacho naman, this is turtle shells shields used in some cultures but rare used in local. Ang buckler naman, this is a small European steel shield. So, European siya, dili siya sa Filipino. Ang scutum naman, this is large Roman shield. So, kay pobre man ta, we're gonna use kalasag. Okay, this is carved wood or animal hide shield in Visayan warfare. Let us proceed to question number 99. The Maragtas legend recounts the arrival of 10 datos of which island? The Maragtas legend recounts the arrival of 10 datos on which island? Letter A, Luzon, B, Mindanao, letter C, Panay, D, Samar. Timer starts now. Okay. So the Maragtas legend recounts the arrival of 10 datos on which island? The correct answer will be letter C in Panay. Maragtas legend ha. Remember, Maragtas legend. Ang arrival, ang kunana is in Panay. Panay kasi mo na siya ang site of Maragtas migration legend. Sa Luzon, this is more trade, political centers later. Mindanao, sultanates developed here, but not the initial datos myth. Samar, this is in Visayan region, but not legends for landing place. Okay, so Panay, that is the site of Maragtas migration legend. Okay, number 100. Which carved timber motif symbolizes the Sarimanok bird in Mindanao art? Which carved timber motif symbolizes the Sarimanok bird in the Mindanao art? Letter A, ochre. Letter B, olango. Letter C, kiling. Letter D, Tagalog. Timer starts now. Okay, correct answer will be letter A, ochre. Okay, this is a carved timber motif symbolizes the Sarimanok bird in Mindanao art. Okay, this is Curvilinear carvings representing motifs like Sarimanok. Ulango, this is a town crier, not an art style. Ang kiling naman, this is it has no historical basis. Tagalog naman, this is ethno-linguistic group and not a carving motif. Okay, so that covers for our part 3. Oh, okay. So that covers our part 3. So let us proceed for part 4 for tomorrow. And yeah, see you on tomorrow's part 4, pre-colonial history in Philippines. And pag wala pa ka nakasubscribe, palihog kog like and subscribe, and also share this video if you could, so that ma-distribute ni siya sa daghan pa nga mga reviewee. Okay? All right, so thank you so much for your time and see you tomorrow.